Greetings. Today I'm going to be talking about what it means to be an American, particularly when we're looking at the perspective of Native Americans. I just got through reading the excerpts of The Absolutely True Story of a Part-Time Native American by Alexi, and it definitely brings some interesting perspective to what being an American is. So, when we say something is American, what do we mean? This is a tricky question because nowadays this plays heavily into what we call identity politics. But I'm going to move somewhere completely different with it. Sometime around the 16th century, a guy named Amerigo Vespucci put together the learnings of the Spanish, Portuguese, French, and English, and even some Belgian explorers of the time and put together a map. And because Amerigo Vespucci liked Amerigo Vespucci, when he put this master map together, he called the continents on them North America and South America after himself. And so there is an inherent narcissism which defines what being an American is. In fact, that narcissism is tied into the very word American. And it is uh, irrefutable and unremovable. It is as closely tied as the name itself. And therefore, something is, when we talk about being American, often it means whatever your cultural norm is living here in the United States. Interesting that there are South Americans and Central Americans, but when we say American, we mean the United States, not Canada, not Mexico, not North America, the United States and things that are of the United States, and specifically that are from our neck of the woods, where we grew up, what we think of as the societal norm. I was born in the American South, the United States South. I was born in Alabama, raised in Georgia, South Carolina, and Louisiana, and therefore I have the norms of people saying y'all and saying hello, and I think of to strangers and thinking of that as being very normal and very quote American end quote. Ultimately, being American as someone from the United States just means something is normal, and that's kind of a dangerous idea. What does being American entail? This is an interesting question because we're doing all this from the perspective of reading Native American literature. And so the people who were on this continent for thousands of years before Northern Europe discovered it, Southern Europe too, Western Europe discovered it, is it it kind of weakens the idea of what being an American is in the modern kind of identity politics perspective, because it no longer really means uh, the people who were born here, because the people who were born here and lived here for thousands of years before the 300 years that we've been here, or 400 years, um, we being white Anglo-Saxon Protestants from Europe, uh, it does kind of soften that idea that there is some kind of manifest racial, religious, geographic persona, which is part of being an American. Um, but for most people, they would, if you ask someone in Europe or in Africa or in China what being an American was like, they would say white Anglo-Saxon Protestants who think they're better than everyone and are better looking and maybe a little bit richer, at least in their own minds. Um, well, that's true. Depends on your culture. Truer talks about apple pie, baseball, and muscle cars as being endemic and systemic to being American, because these are icons which we've been raised on as being kind of central to what it means to be an American. And in some ways these are, but I think these are softening. As we within our lifetimes, we are going to see uh, that the Caucasian population will no longer have a majority um, in the United States. There's about 350 million people in the United States right now, and that number won't change much, but the makeup of that number will change significantly in the next 20 or 30 years. And therefore, those ideas of apple pie and muscle cars will disappear. Baseball, on the other hand, is actually something of a egalitarian concept in a lot of ways, because it's a game which can be played by the poor. It is a game which is often has its superstars from the Latino community or the black community. So I think baseball might remain American. Muscle cars I hope won't stay American. And apple pie, well, apples are indigenous, but I think apple pie's been on its decline for about 50 years now. So I don't know if these traditional icons will stay exactly what it is because I think being an American is going to transform over the course of our lifetimes into something different. And hopefully something which embraces the variety of cultures which make up the United States um, in a more homogeneous way because there won't be a single group in the majority. What I'm afraid of is the opposite will be true because the group that has been in the majority will be in the majority no longer. They'll feel disenfranchised, and we'll see more of the identity politics, which has kind of torn the United States apart in the last 10 years. I hope I'm wrong.